Breaking Free from Anxious Attachment, Part 2. If you watched yesterday's video, you know how strongly I stressed the point that anxious attachment in relationships and patterns of anxious attachment are always a result of chronic self-avoidance or avoidance of intimacy with self, avoidance of intimacy with the parts of us that have been buried into our shadows, with the parts of us that we are afraid of, with the parts of us that we are ashamed of, with the parts of us that we would rather hide from the world. And when we are in partnership, when we're in intimacy with someone, these parts get triggered. This is what happens within intimate settings. The closer that you get to someone, the more you're exposed. And not just the bright and shiny and light and beautiful parts of you. Those do get exposed as well, but also our shadows, also parts of you that you'd rather hide from the world. So the solution to moving towards secure attachment within ourselves and of course within our relationships is to begin creating intimacy with ourselves, to begin creating intimacy with these parts of us. And the natural question that arose from yesterday's video was, well, how do I start creating intimacy with myself? And of course, there are many, many tools that we could use in this creation of intimacy with ourselves. There are many ways to approach this work. But I think the most important aspect of all of this that we want to understand and grasp is that creating intimacy with these parts of us that we're avoiding is about cultivating a relationship with presence, with the present moment, with acceptance of the present moment as it is, as opposed to attachment to a fantasy, as opposed to attachment to potential, as opposed to attachment to an outcome. When we cultivate a healthy relationship or a consistent relationship with the present moment, with the now, we can't actually be in a space of suffering for a prolonged amount of time because we aren't attached to a potential outcome. We're just here, present, and witnessing what is happening in the now, right? In terms of the avoidant partner, if you get attached to an avoidant partner, you are not actually attached to this person. You are attached to an idea of them, an idea of what they could potentially become if they were this or that way, if they changed this or that thing about themselves. So in order for us to start to really create this internal environment of truth and intimacy, we have to be willing to prioritize our relationship to the now and our relationship to the present moment. And how this translates into intimacy with your shadow parts is that your shadow parts or your fears, your anxiety, things that you're ashamed of or afraid of, they will come up in your body, right? So if you're in a partnership with someone who is avoidant and everything is going wonderful, there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of chemistry, there's a lot of attention on you, and all of a sudden they begin to pull back a little bit, to pull their attention back. What will happen naturally in your body is that part of you, that anxious, scared part of you, the part of you that's afraid of being abandoned, the part of you that's afraid of being rejected, the part of you that's afraid of, not being enough for this person or being too much or whatever the fear is, that part of you is going to come up in your body. If you have a relationship to the present moment, right, you will be able to stay with that emotion that is arising in your body, right? You will be able to breathe into it. If you watched the previous video that I made, I said the solution is always going towards the emotion as opposed to projecting it outwards, right? So what we are used to doing when we have patterns of anxious attachment is we sense that there is a fearful part arising. We sense that there is an anxious part arising in our body. And our brain, we go into our head, right? And our brain starts to find solutions as to how to get rid of this emotion. So like, text him again, or making up stories and scenarios. Maybe he's doing this, maybe he's doing that, and going down a rabbit hole of thoughts. But when we are moving towards secure attachment and cultivating that relationship with presence and with truth, we're actually able to just witness this emotion that's coming up, this fear that is arising in our body because someone is pulling back their attention and pulling back their love and pulling back their energy a little bit. And we can create this space usually through our breath, so through awareness of what's going on in the body and through our breath, to go towards the emotion as opposed to trying to find a solution to feel better. But rather, we go to meet this part, right? The scared, anxious, fearful parts of you that arise when a partner is pulling back their attention and their energy is a very, very young and immature part of you. And that young, immature part of you is just desiring love, connection, presence, consistency. They're not actually desiring it from the other person. You are the one that is now able to provide that for these parts of you. So a big, big, big part of creating intimacy with self is learning how to self-soothe and self-regulate when that fear rises up. He is not going to text me back, or he's going to disconnect from me, or all of this was a lie, and oh my God, and I'm not worthy, and I won't be chosen again, and I will be alone forever. So we have to start creating this space to allow this flood of emotions and thoughts to arise, while consciously being connected to our breath, being attentive listeners to the worries and the fears that this inner child has. So just like we would hold space for an actual child that's freaking out and like, my friend doesn't like me, or did this happened, that happened. We would want to be the safe and regulated adult that's able to hold that space for this child and for their worries and for their fears. We don't want to be the adult that's frantically trying to solve this child's issue. We want to first create a safe space for that child to be heard. To say, I get it. I get why you feel scared. I get why you are fearing this abandonment, or why you're fearing not being chosen. That makes sense. And you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. The hardest part about all of this, again, going back to the beginning, is learning to let go. Learning to let go of the fantasy of the inner little girl that wants to be saved by the perfect man, by the prince charming that's going to come and rescue her from the suffering that she feels in her body. And when we are able to really ground into our lives, when we're able to really cultivate this strong and beautiful relationship with the present moment and with our bodies, we won't need to be rescued anymore, because we won't be afraid of what could possibly come up in our bodies. In these scenarios with partners who pull back their energy or who become avoidant, this is the best, most incredible thing that you can practice. Cultivating a safe relationship with these fears and anxieties that are coming up in your body. Because it's only by doing that that we can actually allow the space for this other person to show us their truest intentions. Sometimes that pullback is not even an actual pullback. It's something that our mind created due to these fears that come up. If, a message is half an hour later than we expected, or, if they got stuck at work and can't message and we're freaking out. If we don't actually allow that space for this person to show up authentically, if we react frantically to these scared parts of us, then we have our inner child and our wounds in control of our adult relationships, and they never turn out good. Eventually, we're stuck in the anxious avoidance cycle, the push and pull, the defensiveness, the same fights and arguments over and over and over and over again without ever coming to a resolution. The only way out of that is through. Right? Now, if you're not in a relationship, if you're single, and you're hoping to create an environment in your body that will invite a relationship that is healthy, that is rooted in communication, in a mutual vision, in trust, in devotion, in intimacy, you want to work on the same thing. It's just in the absence of those relational triggers, right? That cultivation of relationship to the present moment is the most valuable thing that you can work on. How can you wake up every single day in devotion to your future self? Right? There are always things today that we could be doing for the benefit of our future self. But we will often choose to do things today for the benefit of today, the instant gratification kind of actions, right? So if you want to think about meeting your shadow and meeting your resistance, you want to, and everybody who's ever been in any of my programs knows how big of a space in my work vision work takes up. So I want all of my women to have a vision, right? A vision for what they desire in their life, a feeling based vision, right? A vision that comes from their heart. So by cultivating this relationship with the present moment through various different practices, through your meditations, through your, I don't know, morning walks, through yoga, through intuitive dance, through somatic exercises, whatever it is, we start cultivating a relationship to the now, to the present moment. Our heart feels soft and open, and usually a vision for our life starts to come through. And a devotion to this vision, to birthing something meaningful to you, is going to require you to meet these parts of you. I always love using the the analogy of the gym, right? And how our brain understands that concept. We understand how the gym and growing your muscles works, and how showing up today for the hard things is going to create these benefits, beautiful results for your future self, right? But we haven't been taught how that very same formula translates into every other area of our life, right? When we have a vision, a goal, something that we desire to bring into the world, showing up for it every single day through the resistance, through the tough moments, through the hard times, through the icky moments, through all of it, eventually births that vision, brings that vision to life, right? And this is what expands our capacity to feel, to be compassionate with ourselves, with others, to persevere through the hard moments. It's what builds that inner trust and security and confidence that we're all looking for. It's by showing up for ourselves and for our vision every single day, no matter what. It's by cultivating a relationship to the now, the acceptance of the now, instead of attachment to the potential and going into this fantasy land of, I wish I was here, I wish I was there, I wish I was over there, I wish I could have that. There's a really big difference between being connected to a vision and showing up for that vision every single day, and being attached to things having to work out a certain way, right? Because when we are attached to things having to work out a certain way, we go into our mind where we're trying to build concepts to create control so that we can control things into being a certain way. When we're connected to a bigger vision, we're also connected to the present moment. And what can I do today that will bring me closer to birthing that vision one day? Please let me know what kind of questions come up for you when it comes to creating intimacy with self. A large part of creating intimacy with self is doing shadow work, on which I'm happy to do more videos about in the future. So shadow work and that deeper understanding of our fears, of our insecurities, and how to effectively move through them and integrate them into our being. And also, knowing what it is that we want and claiming our desires fully and being willing to not settle for less than what we desire. I really, really deeply hope that you enjoyed this video. Pardon me. Subscribe to my channel for a lot more material on these topics. This is something that I love diving really, really deep into if you're interested in truly going into a journey and process to embodying secure attachment within your body. Make sure to check out my group program, The Rise of the Feminine. We begin on October 9th.